Hey everyone, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my experience and my cat Gordon's experience with a 30-day trial of Pretty Litter, which is a cat litter that promises to help you monitor your cat's health using the color-changing properties of the litters. So if you want to hear my thoughts on if this litter is worth trying out, if it's worth using, and who I think this litter would be best suited for, then just keep watching. So Pretty Litter can be ordered directly through the Pretty Litter website, and basically everything runs on a subscription schedule. So basically when you go to the Pretty Litter website, you'll be prompted to fill in a little bit of information about you and your household, how many cats you have, and it'll suggest to you how much Pretty Litter you need. For me personally, I have one cat, Gordon, so I selected one cat, but they also have options if you have 2 cats or 3 cats, and then it is shipped directly to your door. I was really impressed with the shipment in terms of how light the box is, this bag. So this bag is only 6 pounds and it felt extremely lightweight. So I think if you are someone who hates getting the really heavy deliveries or lugging heavy cat litter home from the store, this could be a good option just because of how lightweight it is. What you can expect when you open up the cat litter is it's going to be white in color. So for me personally, I have never tried a silica gel-based cat litter before. I've only ever used clumping clay-based cat litter. So just from a first impressions, it definitely looks different than your traditional gray cat litter. Now, thankfully, it didn't produce that much dust. I was pretty happy about that. It did track a little bit. So I do have a carpet around my cat's litter box, and I did find myself still having to vacuum it kind of as I normally would with the normal cat litter that I typically use. However, I don't think it was any worse than normal. I would say if your cat normally tracks a little bit of litter out of the litter box, you can probably expect the same thing to happen with Pretty Litter. Now let's talk about the odor control or lack thereof with Pretty Litter. So as I said, Pretty Litter is a non-scoopable cat litter. So basically what that means is you're only going to be scooping up the solid waste, but all the liquid waste just gets absorbed into the cat litter. And basically what they recommend for odor control is to mix around the cat litter at least once a day to kind of stir everything up and prompt the absorption process. And I did this throughout the entire month. I scooped the litter every single day for solid waste, and then I also just mixed around the litter. I have to say, for the first 10 days of the 30-day trial, I was very impressed with the odor control. I barely noticed any noticeable odor. From about day 10 to 20, I started noticing a little bit more odor, but I still found that it could be controlled pretty well just by scooping around the cat litter and kind of mixing it up every day. Once we got closer to the end of the month and I was about 20 days into the 30-day experiment, I definitely noticed a more pronounced smell from the cat litter. And personally, I think that if I was not doing this for an experiment, I probably would have swapped out the cat litter around day 20. Probably recommend either swapping it out more frequently or just having an extra bag on hand so you can just top off the litter every week or so and just kind of refresh it a little bit more. I think that would probably go a long way at reducing the smell. But overall, I was pretty impressed by the fact that for most of the month, the smell was pretty minimal, which impressed me for this not being a clumping cat litter. One thing though that I will say was definitely a positive about the fact that Pretty Litter is not a clumping cat litter is I noticed that the actual volume of the litter lasted so much longer than I'm used to with clumping cat litter. The actual volume of litter just stays put the entire month or the entire time you're using the cat litter, which for me, I really liked, and I feel like could actually be a pretty big positive for you if you don't want to constantly be having to add more litter to the box. So that was a pleasant surprise that I noticed with the Pretty Litter. And also, even more importantly than my own first impressions, was Gordon's first impressions. And I have to say, Gordon took to the cat litter very well. He does not really have experience, at least not in the past few years, using silica-based cat litter. He normally uses the clay-based cat litter, and he had no problems with it. He used it right away. He didn't seem to have any problems. They do, however, say that if your cat is more sensitive to changes in the litter, you can mix part of your old litter and part of the new litter. You can do that if you're worried about it, but personally, I had no problems with transitioning Gordon to Pretty Litter for the month. So now let's talk about the color changing properties of Pretty Litter. So one of the biggest selling points of Pretty Litter is the color changing properties and the ability to monitor your cat's health using the litter itself. So every time your cat pees into the litter, there's going to be some color that the litter becomes. So anything from a yellow to an olive green is considered in the normal range. If it's red, then it could mean that there's blood in the urine. And then if it's more on the darker green blue side, it could mean that the litter is more alkaline, which could potentially mean that there is some underlying condition going on with your cat. Personally, I had kind of an interesting experience with the color changing aspects of the cat litter. So for the first 10 days, everything was completely yellow. It was all in the normal range. Once I got into about day 10 to 20 is when the colors started changing. So it was really interesting because sometimes Gordon would use it and it would be yellow, sometimes it would be green, sometimes it would be blue. And it all happened within the same day or two that there was these multiple colors. And then once we got towards the end of the month, it was consistently blue. So on day 10, the litter being mixed up was yellow. And then on day 30, it was completely like Smurf blue. So I'm not really sure what to make of that. That means that the litter is not working properly because it changed even within the same day for my one cat. Or did it mean that Gordon actually did have a health problem that was maybe manifesting itself midway through the month? Or could it be that the litter naturally becomes darker or more saturated the more that it's used and the more urine that is absorbed into the litter? I don't really know. For me personally, it definitely was a good reminder to make sure that I take Gordon to the vet and make sure everything is fine. But I think if you've taken your cat to the vet recently, everything is fine, then I would probably not rely on Pretty Litter as a way to definitively say that something is wrong with your cat. I would probably use it more to just look for patterns over time. And if I notice something deviating from that, then that would be a signal to me that something could be going on with my cat's health. Gordon does have FIV, so he is more prone to different health issues. So for me, I could definitely see myself using this as a way to just keep an extra eye on his health without having to do anything extra. Of course, this would by no means be a replacement for regularly going to your vet, because even if the litter does change colors, it doesn't necessarily tell you specifically what's going on. It just suggests that maybe it could be a range of possibilities, but it doesn't definitively tell you anything. It still requires you to go to the vets, but it is a good way to just suggest if something could be changing with your cat's health over time. So now let's talk about the pricing of Pretty Litter. So the pricing for this one bag as a subscription service is $22 per bag. And I think if you push it, you could make the $22 bag last all month. As I said, I probably would change it out maybe every 20 days or so. So maybe it would end up being like $30, $35 a month if I were to use Pretty Litter. So when I calculated the price per ounce, this ends up being about 23 cents per ounce for this 6-pound bag, which is 96 ounces. Now, when you compare this on an ounce by ounce comparison of other cat litters, it does end up being a lot more expensive. Most of the other cat litters I've tried are more towards like the 4 to 5 cents per ounce. So on the surface level, it definitely seems a lot more expensive. However, I think it's really important to keep in mind that this litter does last a lot longer and you're not scooping nearly as much out of it on a daily basis. It may actually be less expensive in the long term if you're not having to constantly scoop out huge chunks of cat litter every single day and replace it, which you normally would have to do with normal clumping cat litter. However, all of that being said, my thoughts on the pricing is the higher price is mostly due to the novelty factor of having the color changing litter and also having the subscription service of having the cat litter delivered to your door. And as I said, the color changing, the health monitoring is really more of like an extra thing that you can do to monitor your cat's health. It's definitely not a replacement to going to the vet or to monitoring your cat's eating, drinking behavior, and just overall taking care of the health of your cat. So I think if you don't have it in the budget to include Pretty Litter, or if you're more comfortable with a scoopable cat litter, which may be a little bit better in terms of odor control, then I would say maybe pass on it and just get a regular clumping cat litter. So if you do try Pretty Litter and decide it's not for you, the good news is that it is quite easy to cancel the subscription. Personally, I tried doing this and it was really no hassle. I went on their website, I clicked cancel subscription, and I had to go through one extra page where they tried to upsell me and give me an extra discount in order to cancel. But once I got through that, I was able to cancel, no problem. Definitely, though, just keep in mind that if you don't cancel it well in advance, it will keep charging you. So you do want to make sure you keep an eye on the subscription page and cancel early if you don't think you're going to want to continue using Pretty Litter. So let's talk about my final thoughts of Pretty Litter and who I think this would be good for. I think if you're someone who has a little bit more room in your budget and you don't necessarily need to get the cheapest cat litter and you can fit Pretty Litter into your budget, I think it actually is a pretty good option as a cat litter. And I would really recommend it for people who, number one, maybe have cats with health problems. Personally, Gordon does have FIV, so he is more susceptible to health issues. So I like that over time, I could monitor my cat's health. I think it's also good if you only have one cat. If you have multiple cats using the same litter box, I think it could pose challenges where you may not know which cat is causing the different colors. Also, I think if you are very, very sensitive to any litter box smells, you may want to pass on Pretty Litter because I think at the end of the month, it's not going to be as effective as a scoopable cat litter where you are just throwing away any type of waste. However, I would recommend it to someone who doesn't mind a little bit of litter box smell at the end of the month, but also wants to monitor their cat's health and just kind of have a fun experience with color changing cat litter. It was actually better than I expected. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Pretty Litter. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this and check out the links in the description box. And until next time, bye.